12 o'clock on your Monday afternoon now. Welcome. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you. Terry Ford will be here with me in just a moment as we continue to unpack what transpired over three and a half hours on Saturday there in Tuscaloosa with South Carolina coming up short 27-25 to the number 7 Alabama Crimson Tide. I've asked this question a couple times this morning, but feel free to weigh in if you want. 803-404-6100. Is it better to lose a game where you're not competitive and you have no hopes and expectations, or is it better to lose a game where you had your opportunities but you end up coming up short and you feel heartbroken coming away from it? Because for South Carolina, you've experienced both in the past 2 weeks. Now, we knew Ole Miss was a good team coming in, but we thought South Carolina had a chance to be competitive and make the game interesting, and they just got thoroughly kind of run off the field. 24-point game, it was basically over at halftime, right? Compared to Alabama on Saturday, where it looked for a minute there like the Crimson Tide were getting ready to run away with it, up 14-0, but South Carolina suddenly claws their way back in, and it's a 2-point game at halftime, and then boom, you go in the third quarter, and they've got the lead after that long drive to open up the third quarter. Of course, the back and forth, the turnovers, misplays, opportunities, all that kind of stuff, and you walk away, just devastated because you came that close and ultimately didn't win. What an up and down season so far. We talk about the roller coaster ride that is South Carolina football, and you've been on quite a few of them as a fan base so far this season. This team realistically could be sitting at 5-1 right now. The Ole Miss game is the only definitive game that wasn't close and wasn't going to go your way no matter how you slice it, right? But you have the controversial calls in the LSU game coupled with a missed Herrera field goal that would have sent that game into overtime. And then you have obviously all things that transpired on Saturday that if things go a little bit differently, then you could be sitting here talking about being 5-1 and probably ranked inside the top 15 or something along those lines, and we're painting a whole different picture from the season. But obviously can't go back and change those things now. South Carolina is it was 3-3 halfway through the regular season. Got to get 3 more wins to go to a bowl. I know our perception of teams change every single week, and there's the part of you that says, okay, I think they've got at least 3 or 4 more wins in them compared to the opponents that they play. There's probably another part of you that says, well, if they come out there and look flat, they could lose 3 or 4 more of these games and maybe not even make a bowl game. You know what I mean? And that's the unfortunate part about what this team has become this year is it's feast or famine, week to week. You know what I mean? So some weeks they just look like they're perfect, and some weeks they look like they struggle. Now, again, even amidst your struggles against a team like Alabama, you were still there with a shot to win the game with the ball in your hands with under a minute to go. And again, we can debate on, okay, should he have thrown it to Harbor or should he have checked it down and all that kind of stuff. That's a different debate to have a little bit later on. But you were in the game. You had opportunities despite all of your issues early in the game with the fumbles and the turnovers and all that kind of stuff. Not capitalizing on Alabama's turnovers. You were still in position to win. Unfortunately, came up a little bit short, which I think to me hurts a lot worse than just going out there and getting steamrolled by a team like Ole Miss a week ago. So we'll see what Carolina can do. Can they build off of this? Can they go out there and look that good and clean up the mistakes against Oklahoma this weekend? We'll see.
Well, you should have won the game. Let's just start there. We'll move on. We'll move on to all the other things, but you should have won. That's just that. To be honest, you should have. And that's twice now. You should be 5-1.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. But there's so many different ways to look at this. We're sitting at O'Hara's, you and I. Fantastic. Once again, I had the corned beef burger that was really good. You did the Steelworker.
I did Steelworker. It filled me up for about the next 3 days.
My man Tyler chewed on that Steelworker for what, about an hour?
Roughly the whole game.
It's a big sandwich.
It was.
So we had a great time at O'Hara's. The place is packed, and the roller coaster. It's one thing when you're like watching it, right? It's another thing when you watch it with a massive group of people. And that roller coaster ride for 3.5 hours on Saturday for those folks sitting in O'Hara's was crazy.
Well, and you and I were there when the game started. There wasn't a whole lot of people there. We had a few people that trickled in as the game began, but nobody went in there with expectations like, lost to Ole Miss. You're probably going to get beat by 2-3 scores by Alabama, and be 3-3, and having to look ahead to Oklahoma. But as the game started going along, and Carolina gets their first touchdown and makes it a 14-7 game. Okay, there's some interest there. And then you blink and it's a 2-point game at halftime. Okay, now we're rolling. I looked around in the third quarter. That place was packed.
Place was jacked.
Like we had a strong contingent. And again, we're living and dying with every play just like them. The highs and lows, the screaming and yelling. Like it was quite a scene.
It was crazy. And it was wild. So, and the folks that came out, we appreciate you coming out, and the people that said hi, thanks a lot.
To the inebriated fellow that stood behind me for the entire second half, I hope you're doing okay today. You were going through it.
My man was coaching. My man was coaching. He was. He was in on every play. I hope he went and took a nap. He had to be tired.
I hope the girlfriend brought him home and just laid him down. He had a tough day.
He needed a little time alone. But it was such a roller coaster ride of emotion all over the place. So we start with this. Great effort. And there's a lot of things that can be true on both sides from Saturday. First of all, was the effort phenomenal? Yes. No one, well, I'll say very few folks thought South Carolina had a shot to go in there and beat Bama. There were some that said, well, maybe they can hang and make it close. But very few people thought they could go in there and do what they did Saturday. Let's just be honest here.
Yeah, no, they believed they could win. And I know that sounds a cliche thing, but you can tell the demeanor of a team that knows they're good enough. I look back to the Vanderbilt game 2 weeks ago. Vanderbilt played with a swagger like they were expecting to beat the number one team in the country, and they did. South Carolina had that same kind of mindset, and you could see with the way that they were playing and conducting themselves, they believed, getting off the bus, they had a chance to win.
Well, Vanderbilt kind of opened that door for South Carolina to go, these guys are beatable. And two, you look over, and guess who's not standing on the sideline for Alabama anymore?
Nick Saban.
And look, Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a coach. That's not the disrespect, but he's not Saban. So South Carolina was just a phenomenal effort. Coaches, players, cheerleaders, everyone, thumbs up. You went in there and you took it to Alabama for 3.5 hours. You really did. You're down 14-0, dead in the water, and God love you. You kept grinding, and all of a sudden you're down 14-12 at the half. Then you're up 19-14, the best drive of the season. Went down the field, got ahead 19-14. Then you got the pick. You got all the momentum in the world. And that place was I guarantee you there were viewings at funeral homes that were louder than Bryant-Denny Stadium.
The sorority girls in the front row with their mouths agape. Once South Carolina had all the momentum back in their favor, that was quite a sight.
How about our chubby little boy with the Bear Bryant outfit with the fake cigar sitting? I thought he was going to cry.
I was going to say that kid's never had to face adversity in his life when it comes to his football team.
And everything is your way. You got the ball. You're up 19-14. You just and Fortune, what a fabulous play in the end zone, just like Old Dominion.
Yep.
What a great play by Fortune. You got everything rolling. You got the pass interference penalty. There also should have been unsportsmanlike when the Bama DB did the push, but they got away with that. So you got everything going your way. And then you fumble off the mesh point with no one near you. And that changes it again. And here comes the roller coaster the other way. And now you're down. And, just everything just bouncing back and forth on you. And then you have a chance maybe to kick a field goal, and then you get a holding call on Kamar Bell. You back up her, misses the 51-yarder. Bama, you have a blown coverage, you get a touchdown. Now you're down 8. But then you get the miracle 30-yard pass, touchdown pass to Nick Harbor. By the way, nice job, Lenora Sellers, on that throw. Harbor, great job getting your foot in.
Yep.
Now you got 2. Now you got to get 2. You got to complete that pass. I get heat was coming at you. You got to complete that. Jacobs is wide open. You got to make that play. You don't. Okay, we got an onside kick. That never works. Well, it did.
It did.
Now you got the ball again. And now O'Hara's is going nuts again. And that poor guy behind us is going to have an aneurysm. And you have an opportunity. All you need is complete a few passes, and be able to bring out Herrera again to try to redeem himself with the kick. Even though a 51-yarder college kicker, I don't want to be too harsh. And again, I understand heat of the moment, but if you're an offensive lineman and that ball comes to you, either knock it down or once it hits you in the hands, drop it. It's just you got to understand the moment. I get it, though. I understand the game is going on, and you're not used to being in that position. I get it. But that really hurt you time-wise. And then that final play, you got Jacobs wide open, and you decide to try to throw, the home run shot down the field, the alley-oop, the whatever you want to call it. Two defenders are down there. Harbor has no idea the ball's even coming to him. I listened to Sellers post-game saying at that point you got to take a shot. No, you don't. No, you don't. Even he said, sort of like, we'll play it. We've got it here. Well, I could have checked it down or whatever, but at that point you got to take a shot in the end zone. No, you don't. Because you have you have a higher percentage of success to hit Jacobs, let him run up the field and go out of bounds, right?
Yeah.
And then you can get Herrera in for the kick. Then to throw that Hail Mary down the field and hope Nick Harbor can beat two defenders. By the way, Nick Harbor, the very raw wide receiver that is Nick Harbor. I don't agree with that thought. Again, I'm not playing. I know it's easier said than done watching at O'Hara's after knocking down my my burger and, by the way, my bread pudding dessert.
Yes.
I know it's easy to watch and say you shoulda, coulda, shoulda, should. I get it. You're a young redshirt freshman quarterback who is learning and developing. There are moments, Lenore Sellers, you go like this, wow. There's moments you go, ugh. It's part of development for a young quarterback. There were moments, of course, some of that development really hurt you on Saturday, but some things he did kept you in the game on Saturday.
No, it was a mix of he made plays that could have won you the game and made some plays that ended up helping you lose the game. Like both things can be true at the same time. And I don't agree with people that are completely dogging on Sellers today, saying, "Wow, he's just not fit to be quarterback." It's still a process. You're still learning. You're still developing. He missed a game and a half. Like, he's still coming along, and you're going to have growing pains, obviously. But again, he did show you some things to say, okay, we're moving in the right direction here with still some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first, and again, maybe my mind is clouded from bread pudding from Saturday. That's the first game. Look, the Ole Miss game, you got beat. You had a bad day, and you just got beat. And your offense didn't show up. The fake punt fiasco, every decision you made didn't turn out well. You got beat, right? LSU, here's the ironic part. If Sellers is healthy, you win that game.
Oh, I definitely think so.
How ironic is that?
Yeah.
So I will go the flip side. The Alabama game was the first time you could really say this out loud, in my opinion, the way the season is gone. You have Rattler, you win that game.
Yep.
I'm not trying to be mean. You have an experienced quarterback who's been through a lot of the wars and a lot of the battles and a lot of the, what goes on in in-game situations and in certain situations when you're getting the pressure you're getting. A veteran quarterback would have navigated that better.
Yeah.
But that's part of a redshirt freshman, Tyler, when you have the growing pains.
Now, in a lot of instances, you'll have a quarterback that goes on to do great things, that has that moment, has that game where they just come up short, and that's kind of the spark, right? And that produces them to go on and do great things going forward. So how does he take what he learns from this game and helps and progress going forward is going to be a big key for what Sellers is going to be as a quarterback here at Carolina.
Yeah, he had some moments where he made some really nice throws, some really nice decisions.
He had that Manziel Houdini play that if he overthrew Larvadan. If he doesn't, then we're talking about play of the year on offense.
Yeah. And to be fair, Larvadan got his hand. You got to make that catch. It's not easy. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest throw in the world, but if you're Larvadan, you got to help your quarterback right there and make that play. But you're right. I mean, so that play was phenomenal. I don't know how he got out of there.
Yeah.
All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We'll continue on. Here's some sound from Shane Beamer post-game after the loss to Alabama. That's next on the halftime show here on the game. Our reaction Monday here on the Game Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We want to hear from you, obviously. 803-404-6100 on the Love Chevy phone line, Firehouse sub text line. Your thoughts on what was the back and forth, crazy roller coaster ride of 3.5 hours in Tuscaloosa on Saturday?
I texted Preston after the game because he told me prior to last year, which of course would have been my first full year here with this team, buckle up. South Carolina football's a roller coaster. And, you know, I've learned what that's meant since then, but I texted him on Saturday after the game as I was leaving O'Hara's. I said, when are they going to start charging admission for this roller coaster?
Oh, it's a ride.
Because it's got loops, it's got corkscrews, ups and downs. I think it actually throws you out at one point, and then you got to hope it's going to catch you on the other side.
Right. It throws you in the air and then comes flying back. Oh, it was, I mean, whew, what a Saturday. In a game that, I mean, South Carolina should have won. I mean, they at the end, when you get finished 4 quarters, you can walk off that field if you're the Gamecocks saying we outplayed them.
Yeah.
We did everything but close the deal.
You outgained them.
You out everything them for the most part.
You held them to their lowest point total of the entire year.
Yard total, point total. I mean, we talk about our little 13-year-old wide receiver, Williams, right?
You forgot he was out there. At 4 catches.
Didn't you and I look at each other at one point and go, is he playing?
Yeah. Well, here's the, like you were waiting for it, right? Mm-hmm. All right, okay, did not really get involved in the first, second quarter. He's going to have that play. He's going to have the 75-yard touchdown in the third quarter or something along those lines, and he's going to go off and end up with, you know, $140 and 3 touchdowns when it's all said and done. Didn't happen. DBs kept him in contain, and he had 4 catches for 32 yards. He was a non-factor.
Non-factor. Kyle Kennard basically turned that game around. Kyle Kennard was a game wrecker in the first half.
You and I were talking about how much money did he make himself on Saturday.
We are going to start running we're going to call it Cash Register Monday with Kyle Kennard, because Kyle Kennard's making himself some money. Kyle Kennard is moving himself into the second day right now of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And I think before it's all said and done, he could be a good solid. If he keeps going like this, he could be a good solid second-round pick in the NFL draft.
I mean, I know we're comparing this to like Clowney and stuff, but he could go down as one of your greatest edge defenders of all time. That's saying something.
Yeah. I mean, he is what he did on Saturday, the first half on Saturday, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. I mean, he was everywhere. He was playing the run. I think he had 5 tackles, too, in the first half. He was ridiculous. And part of that, too, to be fair, if you watch the intentional grounding, you'll see Milroe takes the snap. Now, for some reason, Alabama, and I don't understand this, saved my life, they engage Kennard with a tight end. The tight end, it was almost like just chipped him and then took off into a route. And then Alabama has no one there to block Kennard. He comes through unblocked after that. Now, Milroe looks to his left, and one of the biggest problems is looking to his left. Dylan Stewart is being blocked by the left tackle Proctor and the back. And Stewart has made a dent into the backfield. So Milroe couldn't escape to the left because Stewart was there with the running back and the left tackle. So really, Milroe was stuck. Kennard had him set in his sights, and Kennard had to win one-on-one, and Kennard did, and you get the grounding safety. But, yeah, well, Kyle Kennard in the first half was just stupid. On
that safety, it's almost because it was a delayed rush that he had. It's almost like he was in disbelief that they actually put a tight end on him.
Yeah, because the tight end blocks him and then goes out in the pattern.
Yeah, like it was like, is it this easy?
And then Kennard looked over and went, there's nobody here.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Milroe, I would like that football, please.
I need to go meet the quarterback.
Yeah.
It was very bizarre. And look, you know, again, to Dylan Stewart's credit, I mean, he didn't have stats. He had, I think, 1 pressure.
He had a sack there. Like, he had Milroe in his grasp. I think he got the ball away.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Stewart did, and sometimes you can't get it on stats, Stewart still affects the game.
Yeah.
Because, again, Alabama is doubling Stewart at times, and the back is shading towards Stewart to block, because you can't block Kennard and Stewart. And it almost feels like Bama said this. Okay, you got 2 edge rushers. One is going to be a second, third round pick in the NFL draft who's having a great year. The other could be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft and he's a teenager. They decided to put their focus on the 18-year-old and leave Kennard one-on-one. Didn't work out well.
It did not.
But again, if you flip it around and leave, but again, with Stewart, the thing that got me was Proctor has been almost perfect this year. The left tackle for Alabama. I think coming into the game, no pressures, no sacks. By the way, he gave up pressures and sacks on
yes, he did.
on Saturday because Kennard got him once, I believe.
Right.
But Proctor, I mean, it's almost like, okay, are you scared to leave Proctor one-on-one with Stewart? So, again, Dylan Stewart still affects the football game, even though Dylan Stewart's not affecting the football game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you're talking about guys in the defensive line, you have to look past the stats sometimes, see what kind of effect they have on the game. Yeah, Dylan Stewart was out there moving things around, making plays without things showing up in the stat sheet necessarily.
And it leaves Kennard a lot of room to maneuver because, again, they got to pick their poison.
Yeah.
So they decided to go with the Kennard poison on Saturday. And that didn't really – the first half was crazy. All right, let's get a quick shout. Shane Beamer giving his defense a ton of props. Tyler, let's get cut 16. Shane talking about the D, which was phenomenal on Saturday.
They did well enough. The first drive of the game, disappointed. We played a little loose in coverage and weren't as aggressive as I wanted us to be, but they settled down after that. Coming into the game, Todd, our key was we needed to affect the quarterback, and we did that in the first half. We stopped the run. We sacked him 4 times. We created a turnover. And, disappointing on that last drive where we let them score a touchdown on that 3rd and long play right around the 2-minute timeout. But for the most part, they did what they needed to do to give us a chance to win the game.
And that was a busted coverage. Pro Football Focus gave that to Knight in coverage, but that seemed like a busted coverage. You had Knight, I guess, was the closest defender. DQ Smith was standing there with his hands out, and it looked like there was obviously a miscommunication in coverage. But again, what should have happened there is Bernard should have fell down at the 2-yard line.
Yeah, and we were talking about that at the end of the takeover hour. When you have a clear path to the end zone,
it's tough, man.
It's hard.
It's tough.
Todd Gurley famously accidentally scored a touchdown for the Falcons and they lost to the Lions a couple years ago, which is the first thing I always think of when I see that. But yeah, taking a knee at the 1 and Alabama being able to just run the clock out would have prevented all the shenanigans of those final 2 minutes from happening.
Shenanigans is the right way to describe it. All right, 803-404-6100. Real quick, let's get Ron here on the Love Chevy phone line. Ron, thanks for calling the halftime show. You're on the game. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys today?
Doing
Good.
okay. Doing okay, my man. What's up with you?
I'm on my way back from Tuscaloosa. I was there. So I have a question on the last play of the game. That was not 4th down, correct?
Right. It was not
Right.
4th down.
So why don't we just clock it there and put the play that we want in instead of going for a Hail Mary? We throw something 20, 25 yards down, and at least you have a chance for a field goal because we had 2 guys wide open for that exact scenario on that last play.
No, yeah, Ron, you are not wrong about guys being wide open. I want to go back and look at something real quick on the game log. Let me see here. On that throw, and that was 3rd down, so you could have it would have been 4th down if you clock it. But the point I think Ron's making is, and Ron, you made a good point. Thanks for the call. Is that you didn't have to make that throw. Whatever strategy, and let me see, you got 10 seconds. It's 3rd and 8. Well, you really don't want to clock it, then you force yourself on a 4th and 8 to get a first down or to be able to go kick the field. So it was a 3rd down, so you really couldn't clock it there. I mean, Ron's situation works if it's 1st or 2nd down, right?
Yeah.
But 3rd down, you can't really clock it at that point. But what Ron said, yeah, you had 2 guys open. We saw Jacobs. You showed me even the screenshot. I mean, you've got to.
Now, he did have pressure bearing down on him, so you have to make a quick decision there. But, again, when you kind of go back and examine it, the better play would have definitely been the shorter throw to Jacobs.
Shorter throw to Jacobs, let him maneuver up as far as he can, go out of bounds. Then you got a couple seconds left on the clock, and you hopefully have Herrera under maybe 45 yards-ish. Yeah, that's the hope. But thanks for the call, Ron. We appreciate it. You're right. There were guys open. All right, halftime show. We will come back. We will come back and have a conversation about coming up short twice this year. This team should be 5-1. They've played to the level of a 5-1 team. Let's talk about that next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. So I was talking to someone, matter of fact, we were at O'Hara's, and one of the guys said, hey, by the way, who are those folks hiring in manufacturing? Because I know a buddy who does do manufacturing, and he hates his job. And he wants to do something else. I said, well, it's Winland Foods, man. I even remembered off the top of my head, Tyler, www.winlandfoods.com/careers. Winland Foods is looking for multi-craft maintenance techs, press operators, packaging operators, need a high school diploma or GED and a year of manufacturing experience. And, maybe you know someone who works in manufacturing and you want to give them a heads up about this. Or maybe you are working in manufacturing, and maybe you want to make more money, get treated better, whatever the case. Again, go to winlandfoods.com/careers. What they are offering, competitive compensation, benefit package, quarterly bonus program, very friendly PTO, also paid parental leave, and a 401k match. Again, go to winlandfoods.com/careers. Go work for the American Pasta Company. What we're talking about, obviously, on a Reaction Monday is a tough loss in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Again, thumbs up. What an effort from coaching staff to players, just going into Bryant-Denny Stadium, coming off of playing that game the Saturday before against Ole Miss at home where you just got worked, and then coming this close to giving Alabama their second straight loss, been the first time since 2007, by the way.
In the regular season.
In the regular season. So, great effort. It was a phenomenal effort. And not many people were picking you, Gamecock Larry, and maybe nobody else. So, just a fabulous effort by South Carolina. But you should have won the game. You flat out should have won the game. That game was there for you to win. You outplayed Alabama for the most part for 4 quarters. That's a game you walk off the field with a win. You just do. You had the opportunities at the end, and you came up short. And it doesn't take away from your effort or how well you played or how well you were coached, but at the end of the day, when plays had to be made, you couldn't make those plays to lock up a W.
I think it shows because, and look, this year's been so crazy in college football. We'll get into some of the other stuff that happened around the country over the weekend. But when you look at the rest of this schedule, you can conceivably look at every single game and say, I see a path they could win this game. Mm-hmm. And I can see a path they could lose this game as well.
I mean, you walk away, and we had one guy who came out, was great, said hi. We talked to him for a bit, him and his wife, and he said he was watching the game. She was like in the salon getting her hair done. He was watching the game on his phone cheering, and they were all looking at him a little weird, giving a little side eye. Yeah. He's like, yeah! They're like, it's a beauty salon, sir. We don't cheer over cutting bangs. Nobody cheers over getting their hair colored. And, you know, he on the way out, he said, you know what? They play like that. They could win them. They could win a lot of games the rest of the year.
They could.
And I agree totally. If South Carolina plays the way they did on Saturday in Tuscaloosa or how they did at Kroger against Kentucky, there's not a game on the schedule they can't win. But if you play like you did against Ole Miss, you might only beat Wofford. That's where it's at. But I'll say this too, and we're going to get to this as the week goes along. You're better than Oklahoma.
Leaps and bounds.
You are better than Oklahoma. Forget the name Oklahoma for a minute. That football team they're rolling out in Norman right now, South Carolina's better.
But if I sat here on Monday and told you South Carolina loses 10-6 on Saturday, you're not going to be shocked by it.
No, not at all. If they won 10-6 or lost 10-6.
You see a path of how exactly that could happen, right?
Oh, absolutely you can. And that's the thing about this whole spiel this year. You should be 5-1. You legitimately should be 5-1. And you're not, because 2 games you had in your hand, you couldn't close the deal. All right, here's Shane Beamer talking about the locker room. I mean, obviously, guys had to be bummed. I mean, you leave body parts on that field for 3.5 hours with the guts that you threw out there, and then you come up short at the end. Here's cut 17. Shane talking about the locker room after the game.
In the locker room, we're going to go right back to work. I hurt for them. I really hurt for them that I wasn't able to do more today to help us get over the top because they worked so hard during the week, and we all want to have a better feeling in that locker room than what we have right now. And that's life, and it didn't go the way we wanted today. We prepared the right way. We got to prepare the right way next week and get on the road and go do it again. We have a good football team. We've shown that, but in this conference, especially on the road, it's a fine line, and you never know when your moment's going to be. You never know when your number is going to be called, and they made one more play than we did today.
All right, and to piggyback that, let's grab cut 28. This is a freshman, Mazeo Bennett. I love this quote, by the way. Here's Mazeo Bennett post-game about the loss.
It hurts. Don't nobody want to hurt again. That's the message. We got to stop coming to the locker room feeling like this.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone did it. Thank you, Mazeo Bennett. The freshman did it. The freshman did it. Someone's got to stand up and say, this is bleep, 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 and we're going to stop this. We're going to stop losing these games like this. I'm sick of this. I'm tired of this. And I'm not going to. Somebody's got a Tebow. After that loss to Ole Miss years ago.
Yeah.
Somebody's got a Tebow.
Sure.
Whether it works out or not, I don't even care. Somebody's got to get up in Tebow and say, this is enough of this. I'm sick of coming up short. I'm sick of being close to beating ranked teams and falling short. I'm sick of it, and I don't want to feel like this anymore. The freshman. Now, again, some guys might have said that in the locker room behind the scenes, to be fair.
Sure.
But in front of the microphone, the freshman said it because you know what? That's the way they all should feel.
Yeah.
And I love Shane. I want Shane to take a bottle and break it on the podium and say, I'm sick of losing like this. We got to coach better, play better at the end. I'm not going to lose another bleeping game like this ever again. Then does what he always does. Excuse me, kids. I just get angry.
Yeah, excuse my language.
Right. Get angry about this now. You are, what, 3 or 4 plays away from 5-1. That's how well you played this year, despite a young quarterback who's learning every step of the way as he goes along, an offensive line that might be better than last year but still below average, a bunch of wide receivers nobody even knew their name till the season started. You're still 5-1.
Yeah, you
could have been.
You could be the story of college football this year. If a couple things go differently, you could be the story of college football. But you're not. Right now, you're 3-3.
You're 3-3.
And again, we're sitting here looking at the final 6 games of the schedule. I could see a path to 8-4. I could see a path to 4-8.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just God love them. They're such nice guys. They are. We have these guys. We have these players here all the time. They're respectful. They hold the door for you. They say ma'am and sir to everybody. They're nice. They're friendly. They act like they really like talking to you.
I'm pretty sure I saw Debo Williams help an old lady across the street the other day.
I mean, Shane is great to talk to. Great with the media. Great on mic, off mic. Everybody's wonderful. But now, get angry. It's time to get angry. You're good enough to win these games.
Yeah.
You're on the field with Alabama, who was number 1 a few weeks ago, who beat Georgia. You had them. You had them beat. LSU, you had them. LSU just pulled that Death Valley magic again, that voodoo on Ole Miss. You had LSU beat. Get mad. Hell, I'm stirred up. I don't even play. It's time, man. It's time to go. We're tired of being that close. We're sick of it. Let's go out there and start smacking some folks. Let's close these games. Let's close these fools out. Let's ring some W's. There's not one team on the schedule that we can't beat, but we got to finish the job. What's the best finishing move in wrestling?
Finisher.
We got to start dropping the finisher.
Yeah.
Time to drop the finisher on these fools, on these jobbers. You like jobber? I remember jobber. I remember jobber.
A little insider terminology there.
Yeah. Time to drop the finisher on these fools from this point on. You like Mazio? Hit Mazio Bennett one more time. This is the way everybody's got to feel.
It hurts. Don't nobody want to hurt again. That's the message. We got to stop coming to the locker room feeling like this.
Yes. That's the message. Put that slogan up. You always have a slogan when you're touching slogans, you're doing all that. That's the slogan you put up right there. Time to get mad. Time to finish these games. Drop the finisher on folks. If you had, you'd be 5-1. Like you said, could be a story of college football. But this team can win every game moving forward if they play the way they did Saturday. But you got to finish. You got to finish the deal. Got to finish the deal. All right, Firehouse Sub Taxi Hour coming up, 803-404-6100. Our buddy Conrad Van Order from Jocks in Birmingham. We're going to kind of take a look back on what happened Saturday with Conrad. That's during football in the 1 o'clock hour, right at the top. Matter of fact, 1 o'clock. It is a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. I got to go sit down after that. I got a little emotional. Need a nap. We're hanging out here till 3 on the game. Time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. Again, no special teams touchdown. Lawyer Lisa special teams contest. We're going to be up to 700. We're getting near last year, Tyler. Here we go.
Well, you're going to have to leave a game halfway through for it to happen.
Absolutely.
How this works.
How it rolls. $700. Go to 1075thegame.com. You just look for that little flippy thingy. You click on it. Fill out the form for the Lawyer Lisa special teams contest. And if there is a special teams touchdown, at 7:30 Monday morning on the early game, we'll do a drawing. And you could be a winner, but you got to go in there and qualify by just filling out the form. Again, go to 1075thegame.com to handle that, the Lawyer Lisa special teams contest. All right, man, what we got on the old Firehouse Sub text line?
Corey weighs in and said, I've heard nobody talk about the greatest onside kick of all time. I've never seen English put on a football like that. It was perfection.
Yeah, we're going to get to it, Corey. There's so many things to get to here. You're right. That onside kick was ridiculous. That was like the magic bullet theory. The magic onside kick theory. That thing was flying, bouncing off people. And then South Carolina recovers it. It was phenomenal. Again, we're sitting there at O'Hara's, and we're going to reference it a lot today because it was 3 hours, man, of crazy. And the place just went berserk because it's bouncing around, and God knows how many Bama guys had a chance to recover it before, South Carolina, does get possession. And that was wild. It was a great onside kick. So big props to the entire special teams crew. And they were practicing it because Shane talked about it, and we'll probably get that cut in about the onside kick. But they were you got that with Shane real quick, that onside kick, where they said he looked at Joe D when they were, I guess even back when they were getting the touchdown and the idea about going for two. I think Shane said he looked at Joe D and was like, look, if we don't get this 2-point conversion, we're going to need an onside kick. Here it is.
Does where you get it on the ground and it's tough to field. And Joe and I talked about it after they called timeout. Do we want to do something different? And I said, no, we don't. Let's try and make these guys recover this thing. You may know where we're kicking it, but it doesn't make it any easier to recover. So we worked that, obviously. Credit to Kai for a spectacular kick. He's money. Credit to our, the other 10 guys out there to do what they were supposed to do so we could go recover that.
Yeah, it was funny because Alabama did call timeout right before the kick, so you kind of had an idea where it was going. But I love Shane. We'll just keep kicking it there and see if they can recover it. And it worked perfect. It was a phenomenal onside kick by Kai Kroger. Excellent text. You are correct, Corey. That was...
I will say, I think there was a better onside kick elsewhere in college football, but a pretty good one from Kai Kroger.
Yeah, might not have been the best, but it was pretty good. Pretty good. And, of course, that led to South Carolina getting that possession back. We appreciate it always, 803-404-6100. And, going back to what we were talking about last segment, I don't know how many people you've talked to. Everybody wants to talk about this game. Even people who don't typically talk about college football are like, hey, man, what about that game Saturday?
Yeah.
I hear this a ton. Now, there's two camps. The one camp, and I agree with this camp, and the other camp, again, I did not grow up a Gamecock fan. But the one camp is, they play like this the rest of the year. They can pretty much win almost every game, or they can win them. There's nobody on the schedule that they can't beat. I agree with that totally. But then I've gotten a bunch of this too. It's just waiting for him to break my heart somehow on Saturday.
It's a consensus I've gotten for a lot of people when I mention that roller coaster, been living it for 40 years, bud. Welcome to the show.
Well, I mean, obviously Spurrier got it going for that 5-year span. They average 10 wins a season. But besides that, there has been that roller coaster that goes with South Carolina football. And that's the fan base. Not everybody, but a good amount of them are like, I was waiting for him to break my heart, or I was waiting for him to screw it up somehow, or lift my expectations and then cut my legs out from under me. And, it's just, that's something else that needs, that changes, that changes, right?
By consistently winning?
Yes. By not having all these moments.
Well, I think if we go back to the summertime with what we knew the schedule was going to be, or what we thought the schedule was going to be, and if you told a lot of the fan base, hey, after 6 games, you're going to be 3-3, but, if like 3 or 4 plays go differently, you could be 5-1, they'd be like, that sounds about right.
Right. But they look at you and go, but we're 3-3, correct?
Yeah.
And you'll go, yeah. And they'll go, okay.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
All right. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you should, and you said it here a little while ago, you should go to Norman, Oklahoma and beat the Sooners. You're better than them. Yeah, I don't care where this game may be played. You are better than Oklahoma. They can't move the ball to save their life.
No.
They do two things to help them win games. They sack quarterbacks and force turnovers. Unfortunately, South Carolina can hand you those things on offense.
There's that little nugget of how this game could go sideways
Exactly.
for you, though.
If you can be clean with the rock, you beat Oklahoma. They can't move the ball at all. You shut down one of the best offenses in America on Saturday. You should be able to suffocate Oklahoma's offense. If you look, I don't care if it's eye test, stats, that's the worst offense in the SEC.
It is, legitimately.
Legit the worst offense. And that mess they did on Saturday, and I know they got injuries at wide receiver, their offensive line is in chaos. They don't know who the quarterback should be or shouldn't be. Bottom line is they shouldn't even get in the end zone against you Saturday.
No.
Those donuts you're talking about, you have a legit shot at a donut against those guys. You should leave Norman with a win. But, like we said, you just can't trip over yourself and not be able to close the game. We'll talk more about what happened Saturday, not just with Conrad Van Order from Jocks in Birmingham is coming next here on The Game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Football in the 1 o'clock hour on a Reaction Monday here on The Game. Of course, South Carolina coming up short at Tuscaloosa, losing to Alabama by 2. We've been talking about the South Carolina thoughts. I don't see what's going on in Alabama, in Birmingham. Jocks FM. Our buddy Conrad Van Order. Hey, man, what's up? How's life? How's tricks? Nothing much to talk about.
You know what, Terry? The sun came up, and I opened my eyes this morning, contrary to popular belief. So we're alive. Some people here might be hanging on by a thread, but we're still kicking around.
Some of the thought process here is from the South Carolina side is Gamecocks let one get away. They had ample opportunity to win that game and just couldn't close the door. What's the thought process in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa and from the Tide side of this thing after what happened Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's equal parts. There's clearly frustration and concern. But I think, believe it or not, there's actually a large portion of not only, us here that cover it, but even the fan base that would acknowledge exactly what you just said. And it's, Alabama was lucky to win the game on Saturday. It wasn't necessarily what Alabama did to win the game. It's more so, how South Carolina kind of literally fumbled away some opportunities that they had in that game. Because if you look at what South Carolina did, particularly from the last 2 minutes of the first half on, they outplayed Alabama. Make no mistake about it. And Alabama's fortunate, whether it's, a couple of the fumbles that ultimately went your way or Lenora Sellers, sailing one out of the end zone on a 2-point conversion attempt, and Damani Jackson thankfully not taking a knee after a game-sealing interception in the end zone. So it's more of a, Alabama, there were so many things that went wrong and even more things that could have gone wrong. But, at the end of the day, you're thankful that a win is a win. And, at least it's better than looking back on back-to-back losses to Vanderbilt and South Carolina heading into the third Saturday in October. So
if Jackson runs himself into the end zone, takes a knee and gets a safety and that game's tied, what's the world like?
Well, I'll be honest. I felt similar in that situation watching it than I did if you watched the Tennessee-Florida game, right, where you just felt like the momentum was on one side of things. Mm-hmm. And the second that game got to overtime in Tennessee-Florida, you had a feeling that, okay, Tennessee's going to find a way to prevail because they've gotten too many opportunities. Mm-hmm. And the same thing for South Carolina, right? Alabama had opportunities, whether it was, last touchdown to Jeremy Bernard, where if he just goes down in bounds, you're able to, run out the clock and get a win that way. Or, a couple of other situations where, that was a game that if it goes to overtime, South Carolina kind of had a lot of the momentum. So, fortunately for the fans, it didn't get to that point, but you were so incredibly close. And, not only that, but, a couple other plays go South Carolina's way on that last drive, and they're, set up with a field goal attempt to not go to overtime, but to win the whole thing. So it certainly could have been worse.
Conrad Van Order hanging out with us from Jocks in Birmingham here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on The Game. All right, so I guess, and obviously if you'd figure this out, you could have Kalen DeBoer pay you a lot of money. But ever since halftime of the Georgia game, things have gone wackadoodle for this football team in Tuscaloosa. If I just say, what's the one thing that sticks out to you? Is it obviously the defense is really scuffled, or is there other things that we don't see because in Columbia, South Carolina, we're not watching every play like you folks are there?
Yeah, I think overall the concern is, if you were to look at one part of the team, it would be the defense and how, a number of factors, right? Not being able to get off the field on third down and fourth down. I know, Alabama did better overall in that area against South Carolina, but, you have a fourth down and 4th and 9, whatever it was there late in the first half, and you not only allow South Carolina to convert, but they get a long touchdown off of it. Then you have the opening drive in the second half, and they're 5 for 5 on third down on that drive alone. And, you go back, and that's been a problem for the last couple of weeks. Then you have an injury to Damani Jackson early in the game. He obviously came in late and had the game-winning interception. But, you've got young guys back there. And, the linebackers that were supposed to be kind of the strength of this defense, and Campbell and Loss look kind of lost at times. The defensive line isn't the same that you've seen from Alabama the past few years. But I think a lot of it, just kind of the whole team as a whole, the thing that sticks out to you is there doesn't seem to be that fire, right? There doesn't seem to be that intensity and that physicality. And maybe that's not something that, like you said, if you're not watching every single down, that you maybe doesn't stick out as much. But, one thing's for certain, when Nick Saban was in Tuscaloosa, regardless of who the opponent was, Alabama was going to be physical, right? There were games, sure, where things got out of hand against, Citadel or Georgia State or some of the games in the past where you got the infamous, press conferences from Nick Saban. But, there were very few times where you would just look and say, the players don't look like they really want to be there on the field. And I think maybe that's one of the more damning things about this team so far is, you have a bunch of guys out there that don't seem to be holding each other accountable. They don't seem to be getting fired up on the sideline. It's almost like, all right, we're here. This is our job. We'll go out there and, try, I guess. But at the end of the day, they just don't seem to have that fire and that intensity that you're used to seeing from, Alabama football teams.
You think it has to do with Kalen DeBoer's shirt or hoodie?
Well, hey, Harry, the hoodie is undefeated. Okay, so I think we solved that problem. The T-shirt we can get rid of, but the hoodie is undefeated. So maybe that's I guess one positive or negative depending on how you look at it. There are enough problems with the team where hopefully we're not going to have that conversation anymore. But also there's enough problems with the team to where that's not the conversation anymore. So it's kind of a give and take there.
Conrad Van Order, our buddy from Jocks FM in Birmingham. All right, Conrad, you talk about the defense and the physicality. Because, Kalen DeBoer came on our national radar for most people last year when UW made the run to the national championship game. Very successful, one-loss record-wise. We talked about the guy's lost one home game in his coaching career, and that was during COVID. So he's a high-level guy. But, if you looked at his UW football teams, they scored a lot of points. Their defense gave up a lot of points. And I guess you never really sat back and said, boy, they're a rough physical crew. It just seemed like, okay, we're going to outscore you, and we'll figure it out from there. So I guess it's a surprise after Nick Saban. But if you look at Kalen DeBoer and how his teams are, this is kind of the route they go, Yeah,
no, you're absolutely, spot on with that, Terry. You look at the Washington team last year that played for a national title. They were 99th in total defense out of 134 teams. I think most of us would agree that's not very good.
Right.
But when you had an offense as potent as theirs was, it was able to cover up a lot of those things. And I think there are times where with Alabama this year, you could say the same thing, right? You could look at it and go, okay, well, as long as, they're scoring 40 to 50 points a game, they're going to probably win a lot of these football games because it doesn't matter if you're giving up 35, if you're scoring 45. But it's just not what you're used to seeing at Alabama, but also in the SEC, right? Like it's just not the way. A lot of these teams that are traditionally more offensive focused, I know that's the way college football is going, but you look at the Tennessees and the Ole Misses, and I know they've had their struggles too, but they have made a concerted effort these last few years to get better on the defensive side of the ball because as we've seen in the SEC, it's great when you can score points, but you need to be able to win in the trenches, right? You need to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. You need to have that force on the defensive front, and Alabama had that for a long time, and now they just don't really seem to have that anymore. And, I know Kane Wommack came over and was very well respected, and, he had this new scheme, and it was, there's going to be a learning curve, but, had a pretty good track record at South Alabama. And so I don't know if now it's a case of, you have a bunch of guys that are just still getting familiar with the scheme. You have guys that are just playing out of position. There's a lack of communication. It may be all of those things. I think it's more so just, when you think of Alabama football traditionally, you think of defense first. And you knew it was going to be different with Kalen DeBoer and there was going to be a drop-off defensively, but I don't think anybody was expecting it to be to this degree. And just fundamental things, right? Not great situational awareness, not good at tackling, the basic fundamental things that you shouldn't have to worry about, you now have to worry about.
Conrad Van Order hanging out with us from Jocks in Birmingham here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler here on the game. Jalen Milroe, first of all, he's probably waking up in cold sweats seeing Kyle Kennard, but it just, he got kind of bottled up a bit, but he did make plays. Now, to his credit, he still found a way to make plays to make a difference in that football game. Were you surprised that Milroe was slowed down as much as he was on Saturday?
Yes, because we saw at times shades of the Jalen Milroe that you got early in the season last year for Alabama. And I think that's something that is frustrating to the fans, is when you have a guy that continues to make the same mistakes. And he had shown improvement through the first 3-4 games of the season, and now you see him reverting back to some of the issues that, you know, have kind of plagued him throughout his time in Alabama, whether it's holding on to the ball for too long. You know, how many times on Saturday did it look like he was, you know, going to roll out, and he rolled out right into 2 or 3 South Carolina defenders, right? Like, it seems like maybe the vision isn't there. And part of that is you give credit to, like you said, Kennard and Dylan Stewart and some of those other guys for South Carolina that were causing him so much problems that, you know, clearly your eyes start to drop, right? You're more focused on, am I going to get hit? Where's the rush coming from? As opposed to keeping your eyes downfield. And that was a problem that you saw with Jalen Milroe last year. And, you know, you had a couple of interceptions here where, again, on a 3rd and 20, I understand you're trying to make something happen, but you just got to live to play another play at that point, right? Go into the halftime with the lead that you have and live to play another down. And, you know, late in the game, you have a guy who's, you know, seems zeroed in on one route, and he's just going to force a throw because, you know, he's not able to make his progressions. And it's he's a great player. He made a lot of plays, like you said, but if this Alabama team wants to have any hopes of not only winning this Saturday against Tennessee, but potentially finding themselves in a college football playoff, he's going to have to be better, and he's going to have to make better decisions. And, you know, that was something that was, I guess, a little surprising based on how well he had played early in the year. And this was definitely his worst performance so far.
Yeah, there was one play, and you kind of glossed a little bit there. I didn't understand that there wasn't more criticism on it, even by Jesse Palmer. You're Jalen Milroe. You got the ball on your own, like 35-yard line, somewhere in that neighborhood. There's 10 seconds left in the half. It's 3rd and 19 or whatever. Why are you even throwing the football down the field? I mean, that throw was to midfield. What are you going to do? I mean, to me, you just take a knee, you go in, and, you know, you got the lead, and now instead you make a poor throw and you look up and it's 14-12. You could have gone in 14-9. How much did you guys talk about that end of the half decision? Because I didn't understand it, and I still don't.
No, we've definitely talked about that a lot today, Terry. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you hear Kalen DeBoer after the game, and he essentially, you know, when asked about it, goes, well, you know, I like to play aggressive, and I view it as, you know, we have essentially an explosive play there, and we're putting ourselves in an opportunity to throw a Hail Mary into the end zone. And I can understand that, but to be completely honest, in my opinion, I think the reason that situation happened is because of what preceded it, right? You give up the long touchdown on 4th down, then you have the safety with Jalen Milroe, and you start to feel this pressure, if you're Kalen DeBoer and the staff, of, oh crap, we've gone from in complete control of this football game, 14-0. We get a stop on 4th down. Who knows? Maybe it's 21-0 going into halftime. And you feel like, okay, well, we need to go put points on the board. We need to respond really quickly. And instead of just going, all right, things have gotten pretty wacky here these past few plays, let's go into halftime with the lead. In my opinion, it looked like the coaching staff was pressing, and you're trying to show the fan base, hey, remember, we're good. We can do these things. And when you get put in those situations, mistakes are going to happen, and that's exactly how it worked out. And credit to, you know, the DB for South Carolina for making a great play and having a great return and, you know, breaking a tackle from the receiver that put them in a position to kick that field goal.
Comrade Van Order, Jocks in Birmingham. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks, boss.
Thank you. Yep, thank you, Terry. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you now. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll get back to Carolina, Bama, and also some top 25 stuff as well. Time to get our Samuel Reynolds injury report on the halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Tyler, grab that for us real quick. Cut 18 from Shane. Give us a little injury update after the Bama game.
I think so. Obviously, we missed DeAndre Jules and Jerry Brown today. Hope to get them back soon. But that was a physical SEC football game, and I think we came out in pretty good shape.
There you go. That's always good to hear.
Yeah, I know. So Casey Henry also got injured and went to the tent at some point in the second half because Jatavius Shivers had to come in for him. I haven't seen any update on him, but I know he was out for a while in that game.
Yeah, and I mean, Casey Henry played like 22 snaps and then was out for the rest of the game.
It was a rough 22 snaps.
Oh, he got runned over one time. It was on a sack. Sellers got sacked. I think it was Thompson's guy that got the sack, but Casey Henry, the guy on that left edge, ran Casey Henry over. God love him. Just ran him over. And Jesse Palmer pointed it out during the broadcast. But Casey Henry struggled. I mean, Shiver was better. I mean, again, you throw him into the fire, your expectation level can't be too high, but, Shiver held his own. He was all right to a point, but the offensive line, it's just got to get better. It just does. I mean, did they run block okay on Saturday? Yeah. The pass protection, Lenore Sellers was under heat about half of his dropbacks on Saturday. From an Alabama team, by the way, Tyler, not known for bringing heat this year.
No, that was not Alabama pass rushes of yesteryear by any means. But, yeah, they certainly looked like it on Saturday. And the unfortunate part, look, we're 6 games into the year. It is what it is at this point. It's not going to magically get better overnight, and you're not going to roll into the Oklahoma game against a very good defense in Oklahoma and suddenly start pushing them around. Like, we're going to have to deal with this the entire season and work around it to try and find ways to win.
Yeah, and look, because when Henry goes out, your first thought would be Tree would come in, right? Babalade.
You would think.
I'm starting to think more and more either Tree has got some injury issue that no one's talking about, or B, they're just holding the red shirt.
Yeah, he's only played in 1 game so far this year. So if they were holding the red shirt, he still could have played on Saturday and not, risk that. So it would lead you to believe maybe there's an injury thing going on there that is a little more of an issue than we know.
Yeah, because that's what my thought is. Okay, is it an injury thing, or are you just saying, look, we're not playing him unless we absolutely have no choice? We don't want to play him at all. We don't want to risk anything because we want to hold him, redshirt it. The year he should have had last year, right?
Yeah.
We want to redshirt him, and we don't want to put him out there and put him in harm's way at all. Or is there an injury thing here going on? So it was, again, the snap count with Henry had 22 total in the football game before he did go out because of that injury. That, it took a while for him to talk about during the broadcast, too, to be quite honest.
It is. It really wasn't until, because Shivers is the one that caught the deflected pass, which that was on first down on that last drive, which ended up, if he would have just knocked it down, that would have been better because that would have prevented about 15 or 20 seconds from running off the clock.
Right.
But I think that's when a lot of people realize, oh, hey, he's in the game now.
Right. And just give you an example, Casey Henry, in his 22 snaps, Pro Football Focus, look, it's not the end-all be-all. It just gives you a grading perspective from Pro Football Focus. 52.5 pass blocking grade. Shivers was 53.1. It's a little bit better, but again, still some struggles at the tackle spot. Josiah Thompson had a rough go. Grade-wise, though, he was in the 60s, but he did give up 4 pressures. And Pro Football Focus has him responsible for 2 sacks. Mm-hmm. And, look, we understand it with Thompson. You knew once a true freshman, 18, 19-year-old was going to go out there and play left tackle in the SEC, there was going to be some rough road. And the road's been rough at times. But, I mean, Caden Proctor is a great example, though, of this. You and I were kind of kidding about it. After the game, Proctor should walk up to Josiah Thompson and say, I've been there, bub. It gets better.
Yeah, I mean, he was the 5-star kid coming out last year as a true freshman, and everybody was raving about him and what Iowa was trying to pony up $1 billion to give to him in the offseason so he can come back home and play for them, and obviously comes back to Alabama. But, yeah, looks a whole lot better than he did a year ago. So there's your optimism for Josiah Thompson, and that's the frustration with Casey Henry, and I get it. He's been injured a lot and hasn't gotten to play a lot over the past couple of years, but when you've been on campus for 3 to 4 years now, you expect those guys to be a little bit more seasoned and better.
Yeah, and it just – Henry's just had a struggle this year. It's been run blocking, pass protection. There's just been a lot of a struggle for Henry. And I think that's why we look at him a little different, because he's been in the program 3 years, where Josiah Thompson is truly in his first season of college football. But Henry started one game more than Thompson, and Henry lasted, 4 plays?
Yeah.
Before he got hurt. So Shivers played, and we'll see what happens moving forward at right tackle for South Carolina. By the way, real quick, Torricelli Simpkins, his pass protection grade was almost 90. Simpkins is a good pass protector. Run blocking, he's all right. He's solid. He's the best overall offensive lineman this year is Torricelli Simpkins. Mm-hmm. And then you have Rashawn Lee, Kamar Bell. I'm mixing my guys together. Rashawn Lee's probably the second best offensive lineman on this team this year. Kamar Bell was good on Saturday in pass protection. Did have the unfortunate hold that pushed the field goal back. But, really it's been Simpkins, Lee, and a very mixed bag after that. And that holding call, they never showed a replay on the holding call during the game.
For the one that set up the field goal.
When Attaway ran for positive yards, Bell gets called for the hold, pushes the offense back. They only pick up a couple other yards, and now the field goal is 51. If you watch the play, if you can see it, it looks like Bell legitimately held. Mm-hmm. It has that look to it. So, unfortunate hold, pushes South Carolina back to where the Herrera field goal tries 51 yards, and the kick wasn't close. I mean, Herrera's 2 for 4 now since the LSU miss.
Right.
And that 51-yarder had no shot.
Yeah. And, I know we're posing the hypothetical of if you don't throw the deep ball to Harbor and you throw short to Jacobs, maybe you set up for a 40-ish, 45-yard field goal. He might miss that too, and we're still ending up with the same result. We don't know.
And we're having different conversations.
Yeah, exactly, because it has been up and down this year. I mean, he's made kicks, he's missed kicks, and again, it's inconsistent up to this point.
Yeah,
but he was put in a tough situation by having those extra 10 yards tacked on there.
And look, a lot of college kickers are going to struggle from 50.
Especially off the left hash.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird spot. South Carolina's been so spoiled with really good kicking. And Jeter hit, his first game 250s, I do believe.
Yeah.
And so, the expectation level for kickers is pretty high. A 51-yarder is difficult for a college kicker. And that thing wasn't even in the neighborhood. Herrera did miss the other one from 48 in the LSU game. I believe it was a 48-yarder. That had a penalty too, remember?
That's
right. The 5-yarder.
That's right.
That pushed it back.
He's not being helped.
Yes. Probably say, and you can't say it out loud because you're the kicker. Well, you're probably walking back. You're sitting there by yourself because no one comes near you, by the way, when you miss.
I was going to say, I was like the kicker marching up to the gigantic offensive lineman. Listen here, buddy.
Real. Hey, thanks a lot, friend. Thanks a lot. You had to push it 10 yards back. Thanks, Hoss.
And the offensive lineman's like, you guys hear something?
I'm going to wedge you and put him on a fence. But anyway, so.
As is the life of a kicker.
This is just another one of the many things in that roller coaster ride that was South Carolina, Alabama on Saturday. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. There was a couple of there was one really good one in the SEC and one that was hyped up that wasn't really good at all. And it was a heck of a game. Late night, 2 top threes going at it. By the way, it exceeded expectation. That was good stuff. We'll get back and talk about it. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford Tyler had It's a Reaction Monday at 803. 404-6100. I almost forgot the phone number again. 803-404-6100 here on the game. Oh, here is our grill of the game as we do football on the halftime show on a Reaction Monday. Hit it, Tyler. This one's easy.
Wants to throw it. He's under some pressure going right side. Carolina's got it. That's got to be intentional grounding in the end zone. That's
it's got to be that.
Kyle Kennard. Oh, there's the flag.
It's already.
Oh, yes.
Todd and Tommy on the call. There's the intentional grounding by Jalen Milroe because Kyle Kennard had Milroe dead to rights for a safety. So Milroe throws it out of the end zone. We're in the tackle box, hoping that no one will see it or call it. And that was the intentional grounding. Boom, safety. Shane's on the sideline with the safety.
Hey, he's doing
safety sign.
He's doing the YMCA.
Yeah, it's like, because we're watching. You and I look at each other and go, is that safety?
That's pretty sure that's safety.
Isn't that safety? And then finally, you see the little icon for flag down, and we're like, okay, you got to call grounding.
Well, they have to confer, was he in the tackle box, was he not in the tackle box? And when you go back and watch, yes, still very much in the tackle box. Very nearly didn't get the throw off at all. Yep. It was almost just a straight up safety. But yeah, when you do that in the end zone, that's 2 points. And was those final 2 minutes before the half felt like an eternity with all the things that happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're down 14-0.
Yeah, it's like, oh, and you're thinking like, all right, the dagger is coming, right? They're going to hit Ryan Williams for a long play, or Milroe's going to run for a 45-yard touchdown. It's going to be 21-0, and all right, go ahead and pack up and start beating the traffic because that's all she wrote. But then you blink and it's 14-12.
Well, how about, the touchdown on fourth down? Talk about onions.
Oh, man.
I mean, first of all, the offensive line did a great job giving Sellers time. The route combination that Dow and his staff put together was phenomenal.
Yep.
And then Sellers money to a wide open Mazio Bennett, who did a really nice job running the route. It was perfect.
And that was the aggressiveness that we talked about a week ago against Ole Miss. Like, I understand putting your, one to keep your foot on the gas, but you got to make the right plays. That was a scenario. It's like, look, being down 14-0, we're not going to win this game by kicking a field goal here. We have to do something to get the momentum back on our side. And that, again, beautifully executed touchdown, with Mazio Bennett on the out and up there. I think it was Harbor that pulled the safety to the other, or pulled the safety away. And again, he was wide open for the touchdown.
It was just the whole thing. The execution of the whole play was just sweet. And you get the touchdown. Now you're feeling good, right?
Yeah.
Then you get the safety. Now you're really feeling good. And I asked Conrad Van Order, did you guys really focus in on that? I didn't think it was a very smart decision at the end of the half by Milroe. You're stuck around your own 35. It's 3rd and 19. The throw you made's going to midfield. I don't even think you had a first down. I think you're short of the sticks anyway. And you make a throw into double coverage, and all of a sudden, and Kilgore made a heck of a play, got out of bounds, perfect, so Herrera could come in and kick the field goal. All of a sudden, Tyler, you and I are, Harris is going crazy.
Right.
12 unanswered points, and all of a sudden, it's a ball game.
That's right.
Again, the last 2 minutes of the first half and the second half were just sideways nuts. Craziness.
Yeah.
I can't think of a football game that was so kooky at the end of the half and end of the game.
And we talk about the importance of winning that middle 8, right? The last 4 minutes for the half and those first 4 minutes after the half. Now, Carolina gets those 12 points really quickly there right before halftime, and then you come out, and I know you didn't score the touchdown within those 4 minutes, but you proceed to go on an almost 9-minute drive to open up third quarter. Best drive of the entire year for this team. I know we talked about it last week, that Ole Miss opening drive was good, but this was a drive. When you needed to make something happen coming out of the locker room, you got your points for halftime, you get the ball to start the second half, you have to score. And realistically, you needed a touchdown. They went down there, methodical drive, ran the ball very, very well, positive plays, got the touchdown. It's worth debating if they should have gone for 2 at that point, because that could have certainly benefited you later in the game. Regardless, you didn't, and you end up having the lead there.
But it was that. Then you look up, and it's 19-14, and you're like, oh, my God, this is unreal. Because you were down 14, it felt like you were one drive away from being blown out of the stadium.
For sure.
And now you're up 19-14. You've scored 19 unanswered. I mean, it was something else. The last 2 minutes of the half, halfway to 9 minutes into the third quarter, all of a sudden, if you're Alabama, you thought you were going to have a cakewalk and all this dancing, you're going to have fun, and now you're down 5. And that place, again, that place is a library. And then you get to pick. And
you had all the momentum in the world.
It's right there.
It was right there.
And then, again, Lenore Sellers, who made his share of good plays, also made his share of bad. And I think we can debate it, what do you think is worse, but that fumble with no one near you coming off the mesh with Rocket Sanders. And you just got in the pass interference penalty, too, to get a first down. And then you fumble, Bama gets it back, and everything turns.
You were in position to, at worst, maybe make it a 8-point game. You could have, if Herrera makes the field goal, hypothetically, it's 22-14 at that point in time.
Yeah, unforced errors are what really drives you crazy. Physical errors are made. It is part of sports. Especially in football, dudes are trying to knock the ball out all the time now. You got the peanut punch. You got all these things. But when no one's near you and it's ball handling, basic ball handling. And that, again, takes away that huge, ginormous tsunami of momentum that you had.
Right.
It's just a shame. All right, it is Reaction Monday, 803-404-6100. Let's get Drew in here real quick. Drew, thanks for hanging on. You're on the halftime show on the game. We appreciate you. What's up?
Nothing too much. Honestly, I kind of wanted to switch gears on you guys a little bit. I know it's about football, but, the Fighting Q-Sips and reigning SEC Coach of the Year start basketball up in 3 weeks. Ken Palm rankings came out today for the 24-25 season. I was taking a look at those, and they had us ranked right around the bubble. So I think we were like 64 or 65th in terms of Ken Palm. And the teams that were in front of us were a majority of the teams that we have the pleasure of playing this season. So it should be a good season. We should have a really good team. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Thanks for taking my call, guys.
No problem, Drew. Thanks. And here's the thing about it real quick. Top 25 just came out to AP, and
yes,
obviously they're not, South Carolina's not in it. 5 of the top 10 are Big 12 teams, by the way.
Shocker.
Big 12 is a Big 12 stacked.
Well, now you get 2 Big 12 teams in your conference.
Yes. So, Drew, to your point, yeah, they were on the bubble on Ken Palm, but think last year where they were out on Ken Palm preseason.
You're going to get more respect than you had a year ago. So
yeah.
There's that.
And look, it is exciting to see what they do this year. They're a little bit more athletic up front. Again, my concern is replacing the point guard, who I love deeply. But you do bring in a high-level freshman. You got a high-level sophomore. If they can figure out the point guard spot, I think they have a good amount at both ends of the court to be a very interesting team this year.
For sure. No, we're right at a month away.
So we'll see. And Drew, thanks for we'll do a little basketball. I mean, look, this time last year, nobody even wanted to have a discussion about basketball.
No, we got plenty of reason for excitement this time around.
And Lamont Paris and that crew, that was so much fun last year to watch. That win at Tennessee was about as much fun as you could have had for 40 minutes. I mean, beating Kentucky at home, they've beaten Kentucky over the years. But Tennessee, remember the year before, Lamont's first year, Tennessee beat them by an average of like 100.
Oh, they beat them like a drum.
And then you go to Knoxville and you take their lunch money. That was good. That was sweet, man. That was really sweet. So, yes, a lot of expectation for what South Carolina basketball can be in year 3 under Lamont. 803-404-6100. We will jump in on a Reaction Monday to the Firehouse Sub text line. Our Firehouse Sub text, the hour is coming up next. Halftime show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head will also continue talking top 25 and the SEC as well here on the game. Time for our Firehouse Subtext, the hour, 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. On a Reaction Monday, what do you got there, my man?
Listen, you're always going to get my attention if you bring up superstition. Angie says, do y'all think we can talk Sweet Talk Sellers into bringing back the goggles?
I've heard that.
For those that don't know, he debuted the Contacts against LSU, and those are 3 games they've lost.
Get the goggles. Let's go. Time to bring the goggles back. Not that you'd be superstitious or anything.
Not at all.
No.
But, I mean, I guess because the concern people had, now we don't know if this is legit or not. I mean, Beamer said he was fine with his vision, but the peripheral vision was some people had a concern with the rec specs because there were several plays in like the ODU game and the Kentucky game where he just did not see guys bearing down on him. So they made the switch. I'm not sure if that's why they made the switch, but regardless, they did. And you would think he sees better with it. But if the lucky charm was the rec specs, then maybe we should go back to those.
That's right. It's for luck, Linares. But I see better with it. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But I can now put them back on. You screwed up the juju.
Hey, it's only weird if it doesn't work.
That's right. Angie, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. All right, football on a Reaction Monday. And we always appreciate your text on the Firehouse Subtext line at 803-404-6100 as well. All right, so in the SEC, LSU, there's something about a night game in Baton Rouge. Ole Miss, you want to talk about, as we are here on Monday, thinking about what could have been. Ole Miss should have skull-kicked LSU in the first quarter and a half.
Looked like they were going to.
They had so many opportunities. They got stopped on downs inside the 5. They fumbled all over themselves, did Ole Miss.
And now they're hitting the panic button in Oxford. They've lost 2 out of the last 3. With one of the most talented rosters in all of college football. So many of us, this team's definitely getting to play. They got 2 losses. They still got to play Georgia. Like this, they might not make the playoff. They might be in the ReliaQuest Bowl for all we know, which that wasn't in the plans for this year.
Now you're saying it feels like unless you can beat Georgia, and I think the game's in Oxford, right?
That game is in Oxford, yes.
If you don't beat Georgia, at the Grove.
Because I think the ship sailed on going to the championship game, the FC championship. You're not going to go there at 10-2, I don't think.
No. And
you're fighting for your life now.
Yeah.
Every week.
You can't lose another game. You really can't. If you lose to Georgia, you're done. When it comes, unless goofy stuff happens for the college football playoff and a 3-loss team gets in, 2 losses is as far as you can go.
And even we don't know.
We don't know for sure
on what all these other conferences do. That might not even be enough. We're just spitballing here.
And Ole Miss has no one but themselves to blame. They should have been up by multiple scores in that game early. And again, they screwed it up. They were there again. They punched themselves in the face, and they left the door open for LSU. And LSU came back and tied it, and then won it in overtime.
They also got to go to Arkansas the week before.
Yeah, that's
Georgia.
not easy. Ask Tennessee.
They could trip on that one. But yeah,
absolutely trip on that one.
I mean, which I heard this floated out there, by the way. If you want to really start connecting some dots here, Florida obviously not looking great. Ole Miss looks like they might not make the college football playoff. Lane might not be as busy in December as previously thought. I'm just saying, things might start moving and happening.
I want to get to that in a second, but here, because I do want to address that. All right, Ole Miss misses a field goal.
Yep.
Got stopped on downs after missing the field goal. Both times they were rolling through LSU territory. So there's at least 10 points. Because when you got stopped on downs, you got stopped on downs inside the 5, if I do remember. So you could at least had 10 points extra on the board going into halftime, and instead of barely being up 17-13, you could almost have a 30-burger on LSU at halftime. You left the door open. Then their overtime possession was god-awful. Their kicker had to bang a 57-yarder, I think it was, or a 56-yarder.
Yeah, they played safe.
It was awful. And I'm going to say this. Look, I like Lane Kiffin. He's interesting. He's kind of fun when he wants to be. He's got a incredibly smart offensive mind, and he's been very successful at Ole Miss. But what we say coming into this year, this is the first year that Ole Miss has had expectations. This is the first year since Lane Kiffin got left on the tarmac that anyone's had any expectation on Lane Kiffin. So far, you lose to Kentucky at home, and you let again another game you should have won, and then you let this one slip away at LSU, and now you're in danger. If you do lose to Georgia, unless a lot of crazy things happen, you got no shot for the college football playoff. So here's what I'll say to this: you think you had expectation this year at Ole Miss? Go to Gainesville.
Yeah.
Go to Gainesville.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah, double what's going on at Ole Miss.
That'll be it doesn't matter what you do the year prior. The expectation every year in Gainesville is going to be playoff team.
Mm-hmm. And I'll throw this at you. Does Lane Kiffin want that smoke? He likes what he's got. I mean, even this year.
He's got a good gig.
Let's say they go 9-3. There's going to be, people are going to be bummed, disappointed. But all of a sudden, is he on a hot seat?
No.
Tell you what. Be in Gainesville with the best roster in college football, go 9-3. What do you think is going to be happening?
Won't be good.
No. Not at all.
But, he likes to play around with these kind of things, right?
I know. You know what? He wants to get more money at Ole Miss.
Oh, sure.
I think this is just an angle since we're filling time. Maybe Lane don't want any of that because he knows what that pressure cooker's like when he was at Southern Cal.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Florida, more pressure than Southern Cal.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe Lane likes his cushy love in Oxford. Well, we'll see, but I could be wrong. But so far, the year of expectation for Ole Miss has gone after Saturday. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We are going to get to what was a heck of a football game in Eugene next.
formation. Maurice Brown, the tight end, is in there. Pistol, handoff, right side. Sanders driving for the goal line.
Yes.
Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown. Rocket Sanders from 1 yard out. And the Gamecocks have taken the lead in Tuscaloosa. It's 18-14. They just went 16 plays, 85 yards, and shocked the Crimson Tide.
Man, that was something. South Carolina took the lead on the Rocket Sanders plunge. Best drive of the season.
Oh, by far. No, that opening drive against LSU was our, I think, consensus pick for that going into the weekend. But you and I watching the game on Saturday both looked at each other and said, that was drive of the year right there.
Great. What a great drive. It was crazy. But that's the thing is, like, you're watching, and I understand. Look, I understand. You can't be turning the ball over that much. You just can't. You got to stop. Whether it's trying to do too much, just developing and learning and having the game slow down for you, understanding the moments better, being able to read coverages better, feeling the heat of pass rushes, whatever it is, all that stuff has to get better, absolutely, with Lenore Sellers. But you see, when he does stuff good and when he does stuff right, you see how high the ceiling is. And that's what's that stupid thing? I never say it. I'll say it for the first time in my life. The yin and the yang. Mm-hmm. Never let me say that again. Okay. The yin and the yang of what happened on Saturday. 1 minute Sellers is dropping a dime. The next minute he's dropping the ball. And you just, it's like anything. It's like mind-numbing because 1 minute you're like, oh, my God, this guy. He's got so much potential. The next time it's like, oh, I can't believe he just did that.
And when your quarterback is inconsistent, your team's going to be inconsistent.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we go back to the cut on Friday from, was it Brooks Austin?
Yes.
About the play calling of Dow Logans, who, by the way, for a while in that game, Jesse Palmer was calling him
Dole Logans.
Logans, yes. And I think somebody got in his ear because he started saying it right. Little Dole Logans.
Actually, I have that cut here. Give me just a second.
Jesse Palmer or Brooks Austin?
No, Brooks Austin, because he brought up a really good point.
We gotta get to Jesse Palmer. I'm rewatching it, right? Starting it's like I couldn't watch the Giants and the Bengals. I tried a few minutes. I'm like, I'm going to start rewatching the South Carolina-Alabama game. It's more entertaining. By the way, there needs to be a law passed. I'm not a political guy. I don't care. But there needs to be a law passed in Congress that the Giants and the Giants are not allowed on national television anymore.
Oh, God.
They are so unwatchable. It is awful. It was a terrible football game.
But by the way, could you imagine, I don't know how many, because I know it's typically like Mets and Jets fans. Imagine being a Mets fan, watching what happened in game one last night, and then turning over to see the Giants just, pee the bed against the Bengals.
Oh, that was terrible. Look, I get it's the number one media market in our country, so you have to shove all their teams down our throats because, it's the number one media market in the country. I would love to know how many people outside of the New York area watch the Giants play in prime time?
That's a good question because, at least for the Cowboys, there are Cowboys fans everywhere. You go to any city, any town across America, you're going to run into a Cowboys fan, America's team, whatever it may be. I am struggling to think the last time I ran into a Giants fan.
I can't remember the last time.
Even the Super Bowl era. You know what I mean? Those couple with Eli, I don't know any Giants fans.
I say this all the time, as I've been doing this for about 100 years. I think what happens in the media business, TV business, when it comes to this type of top conversation is the Yankee syndrome.
Sure.
The Yankees are a brand. The Yankees are a brand across this country. You could probably go into a pub somewhere in Ireland and some goober's wearing a Derek Jeter jersey.
Yeah.
The Yankees are a brand like the Lakers. They're a brand like the Cowboys.
Cowboys too.
For some reason, TV people, and they probably have a lot of numbers and analytics that are going to say why they do it, but TV people think all the New York teams are looked at like the Yankees. And they're not.
I don't think so.
Guess what? Knicks, we don't care about you. Jets, we don't care about you. You have Aaron Rodgers, a little bit more interesting. We don't care about you. Giants, we don't care about you. We don't care. Rangers, we don't care. The Yankees are the one national brand, worldwide brand out of New York that people actually are polarized about, right?
Yeah.
The rest of them, we don't care enough. TV, we don't care. Maybe I'm alone on this. Maybe a TV exec will go, no, Tara, you are so off. Let me show you these numbers. And I'll go, okay, I'm wrong. I just don't feel the juice of sports fans. I've lived all over this country.
Yeah.
One step ahead of the DEA. I've lived all across this country. I will run into Yankee fans everywhere. Not the rest of them.
Yeah,
Not the rest of them.
I had a buddy in high school that was a Jets fan, but he was legitimately from New Jersey,
Yes.
so that's a little different.
Very few people in the state of South Carolina who go, man, I love them Giants. I started rooting for them during the Eli era.
Say, I looked at that Daniel Jones guy and said, yeah, I want to root for that guy every week.
My guy. It's my guy. So anyway, I'm rewatching the game last night. South Carolina, Alabama. I started there. And, it's just one of those things where with Sellers, there are these great plays where his legs, his arm, whatever, and you see it. And then there are these moments where, he'll hold the ball too long, whether it's receivers aren't open or he's just not seeing stuff. Or he'll get rid of it too quick sometimes, Tyler, where he's not letting anything develop. Or you can tell he probably doesn't have a lot of confidence in his protection because he's one look, one progression, and he's out. And to be fair, we're going to play this cut from Brooks Austin on Friday, kind of talk about the play calling with Dow Loggins. But another thing, and look at perspective, okay, you have a young quarterback who started as many games as you and I coming into the season, right?
Yep.
Redshirt freshman. You try to improve your offensive line with two transfer portal additions, and you have a really nice young class of offensive linemen led by a 5-star. And then you have 2 guys coming back. But you didn't know you really didn't know what you didn't know. You're hoping. You brought a wide receiver room as patchwork together in many different areas. No one back. The leading receiver, returning receiver was Nick Harbor out of the wide receivers, or Luke Doty. I forget which one it is now. One of them. Might have been Doty. More catches.
Yeah, I think so.
But the 2 guys combined had less than 20 grabs. So with all this uncertainty, hey, Linares, it's all yours, babe. So there's going to be his own learning curve, and then how much around him is helping him or hindering him, that we don't know. We don't watch the All-22. We know the offensive line has issues. We know everyone on this team has issues in pass protection, right?
Yep.
And then how consistently are the wide receivers getting open or not getting open? It feels like they're getting better, but still, how much is that a thing? And then Linares himself. Is reading coverages getting easier for him? Is going through progressions getting easier? We see at times he can be inaccurate, especially when pressured. And now most quarterbacks aren't as good under pressure. But Linares has had some real issues with the pressure, and the sad part is he gets pressure. Clean pocket on Saturday, he was phenomenal, if you look at the numbers. So here's Brooks Austin. Said something that Tyler and I looked at each other and went, huh. Talking about Dow Loggins and his play calling this year at South Carolina.
I will say this about what I've noticed from Dow this year as a coordinator. It's very clear to me that he is being tasked with protecting a quarterback that is very, very turnover prone. I have really liked what I've seen from Linares. I think the future is extremely promising. But you'd have to be remiss looking at that tape from Linares this year and say that, oh, he's not one play away from a turnover at all times. He's one play away from a sack fumble. He's one play away from an interception and throwing it to the other team, I feel like, on a down-to-down basis. And as a coordinator, man, that makes my job really, really hard.
That's very interesting, isn't it? It's like, so does Dow Loggins, is that part of maybe some of the uneven play calling? And by the way, the second half I thought was really, really well done with Dow and the play calling and how they did some things. A part of that is because the execution was better. Again, when players execute, the play caller's looking a lot smarter. But I thought some of the things that were done, I'll tell you, that first half touchdown on that 4th and long, that 30-yard touchdown pass to Mazio Bennett, that was nicely put together. The route combinations are cool. Jesse Palmer went through the whole thing, but you know what made it really cool? Execution.
Everybody did their job.
Exactly. So how much of Dow Loggins is he trying to protect Lenore Sellers and protect the offense. And sitting around talking about a quarterback who has had the turnover issues and been loose with the ball or has thrown some ill-timed interceptions. How much of what we're seeing in the play calling that people are maybe talking about or criticizing, how much of it is something like that we never even thought of? How much is he calling plays because of the issue that Brooks Austin brought up? I think it's very interesting.
It is, for sure.
From Austin. So, with Lenoris, I think it's such a mixed bag. And I'm with you. I think the people that have already written him off, it's a little quick. It is. But now, is it frustrating to, like Saturday, if you, 4 or 5 things we can point out, Lenore Sellers, if you do this instead of that, if you do that instead of this, because South Carolina won the football game? Yeah, you feel like it. But then again, how many plays did he make to help you get in that position to be able to win that football game?
Yeah.
That's the yin and the yang. When you in today's football, because of transfer portal, and obviously dudes going to the NFL and NIL could take guys away from you and all this unpredictability, this whole idea where you go, you know what? He's going to be okay for the next couple of years. To this year, he's learning. But next year and the year after, we got ourselves a quarterback. And that's great because you see the value of a quarterback, the difference he can make. Look at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But what else are you going to have? You know what you have this year? A hell of a defense.
You don't want to waste that.
And most of those guys will be gone next year. You go around that whole defense, most of those dudes are going to be gone.
And that's the unfortunate characteristic, it seems like, of the Beamer era, where you'll have a strong point of the team. Last year, you had a quarterback that's in the NFL now starting games, and a first-round caliber wide receiver, but you didn't have a whole lot around that, and you couldn't take advantage of that to their best abilities. So this year, you have a great defense. Hopefully, you can take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. But again, your offense is still kind of, coming and going.
And what you're hoping is your offense with this year under its belt, the guys, because there's guys leaving that side of the ball too.
That's true.
But the young guys who are staying are going to be better for this year of development, like the Bennetts and the Sellers. But then you got to hit the portal, and you got to keep Dylan Stewart.
Oh yeah, they are. His phone's already ringing.
Absolutely, you got to keep Dylan Stewart. You're going to lose Kennard. You're going to lose Boogie. You're going to lose Tonka. You're going to be losing Debo. You're going to be losing Bam Martin Scott. You're going to be losing Knight. You're going to be losing maybe Emin Worry. You are going to be losing Fortune. You got a lot of guys you're going to be losing on that defense that you're going to have to replace. And some of it's guys on the roster, next man up, and some you got to bring in through the portal to be able to fortify that D. But that's the frustrating part this year is you got a defense that can win you a good amount of games. It's just your offense, because of the growth and the development you're going through on that side of the ball, they're not helping your cause at times. All right, so what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We've been teasing it, and we keep talking about other stuff, but we got to get to it. Ohio State and Oregon. I said about Oregon, what we say, Tyler, they got to win a game like this.
That's right.
They did. Now, they won it at home, but they won a game like this. This is the kind of game Oregon's been losing. They won it. But now you can have legitimate conversations about Ryan Day, Will Howard's game management at the end. So Ohio State's got some explaining, but the good news is it's expanded playoff. So Ohio State's okay for now. All right. What's trending at 2? Coming back, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions right here on The Game. All right, so our friends at the Nest, we've been talking about those folks for a while. If there's stuff you want to do to your home, go to people with a lot of experience. We mean a lot of experience. 70 years worth of experience at the Nest. If you want to get new appliances, maybe a tub, new fixtures, new lighting, plumbing, all sorts of things to take your home next level, just call 803-978-2025, 803-978-2025. You call, let them know what you want to do. They'll put you in touch with the right expert because they got experts for everything. Every department's got their own expert experienced. You'll get a hold of that expert. They'll talk to you on the phone about maybe basically what you're looking for, your goals, your dreams, your budget, and they will put it together for you, bring you in, sit down, go over all of it, go through the vast showroom. You'll walk out of there happy. Again, it's 803-978-2025, The Nest, 1331 Gadsden Street. Have the experts at The Nest help your home go to next level. Again, 803-978-2025.
Down here at the bottom for Jeremiah Smith. 3rd and 20. Howard, a lot of time coming off. Howard's going to run for it. Time runs out, and that'll do it. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon. They storm the field at Autzen, and the Ducks win this bout 32-31.
That's the call there at the end of the Ohio State-Oregon game. Where'd that one come from? Is that?
That was NBC. That was No Eagle.
Was that No Eagle?
That was No Eagle. He and Todd Blackledge do the primetime game on him, but he is really good.
They did a really nice job. Blackledge, I think, is underrated. I know there are people, like every one of these guys, people love him and hate him, whatever. I think Blackledge is a solid job. And Eagle, he's got it in the genes, man.
He's going to be commentating for a very long time.
Yeah, so that was the final call on NBC Peacock on Saturday, Ohio State, Oregon. I mean, it was even better, man, than the hype. Back and forth, lead changes, big plays.
It's exactly what, just a neutral observer, it's exactly what you wanted that game to be.
Yes, absolutely. It was fun. It was compelling. It came down to who had the ball last. Dan Lanning, and because again, these guys today, I love aggressiveness. I love going for it. But let's be real. It's 31-29, and Oregon's 4th and goal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that says, is Lanning going to take the field goal and hope his defense can hold a 1-point lead, or is he going to go sideways and go for the touchdown? Kick the field goal and put the game in the hands of his defense, who, by the way, didn't do a great job of stopping Ohio State all day.
Not all day.
But, I would have kicked the field goal, and I'll tell you why. Because I want the lead. And I'm going to put this in the hands of my defense, and I know we haven't been playing at a high level, but I got to take the lead there. So it was 4th and goal. It wasn't like at the 1 or the 2 either. I want to go back and look at the play-by-play chart. But I was sitting there thinking, remember they called a timeout. And I was sitting there going, okay. Oh, no, it wasn't the 1. It was 4th and goal at the Ohio State 1. And I was like, are you going to go for it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go for it and you get stuffed. And remember, last year, Oregon lost that game to Washington.
By going, I think, twice on 4th down.
Kept going for it on 4th and goal inside the Washington 10.
Yeah, so I think he learned.
I love it. Again, I love the aggressiveness of today's coaches. I do. But sometimes, and that's why I always say this stuff's fluid, Tyler. Game flow, game situation, where are you at? Taking the lead there, I just felt was important. And if your guys can't hold it on D, you can't hold it on D.
I think my important takeaway from this game, and we questioned this with Oregon coming into the Big Ten, which is a physical league. Could they match physicality with the Ohio States, with the Iowas, teams like that? They did that on Saturday. They did not allow any sacks. They ran the ball for 155 yards. They belonged in the trenches just like Ohio State did.
They did. I mean, Dylan Gabriel was phenomenal. If you're an Oklahoma fan.
Evan Stewart finally had his emergence at Oregon after transfer from A&M.
Well, Stewart goes back to this physicality thing. There are a lot of people, the biggest knock on Evan Stewart is a lack of physicality. He's an unbelievably talented player. He just, you get in his grill a little bit, and he typically backs down. But Stewart was a man on Saturday for Oregon. They needed it because how about the goober who gets thrown out of the game for spitting?
Yeah.
Holden.
So
very good wide receiver, by the way.
What is less effective? Throwing a punch to someone with the helmet on or spitting in somebody's visor?
That's what hit me. I said, first of all, spitting in someone's face, you deserve to get the heck kicked out of you.
Sure.
Number one.
Sure.
But number two, you spit into someone's visor. I'll show you right in your visor.
Wiped it off.
Because, ready? First of all, I wiped it off, but two, I left evidence.
Yeah.
I left evidence I spit on your visor.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, Holden had just made a big play, or I think it was like a 22-yard catch or something.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you're vital to the success of your team.
And you just eliminated yourself.
And look, I get it. There was a lot of jawing going on with the Ohio State DBs and the Oregon wide receivers. I understand it. But come on, man. Just jaw back. You know your best answer is? Punking them on the field.
Sure. Especially after you just made the play.
Yes. And then
so
you spit in his face.
You have the leverage here.
Right. I just was like, what are you doing?
But again, this game lived up to the hype.
It was great.
And we could get this game 2 more times this year.
Oh, we could.
Yeah.
Let's hope. That thing was fun. Remember, we got UW Oregon 2.0 last year. Was a good game.
Now with the 12-team playoff, you just never know. We see Puddles the Duck crowd surfing after the game.
Oh, yeah. So good. I mean, it was such a fun game to watch. The atmosphere was ridiculous. And if you're NBC / Peacock and you've written that check for all that money,
it lived up to it.
How much you smile? Like that goofy horror movie smile?
Every little bit.
You got that goofy smile?
There was so much happening simultaneously. You had this game. You had Ole Miss and LSU. Tennessee and Florida were playing their game. Like all these games are happening at once. I was double screening, but also having to flip back and forth because I don't like have more than 2 games on at a time. But I mean, this whole weekend was billed as like the first great weekend of the college football year because we've had good games here and there, but we haven't had like a full slate of just great football across the board. Finally had this past weekend, all these games, with the exception of the Red River game, lived up to the hype.
But, you throw in what happened in Tuscaloosa.
That's right.
I mean, you had a bunch of games that were tight and thrilling. Tennessee keeping Florida in the game the way they did. Look, no, let me rephrase that. I was just having a little fun. Florida, talking about Ole Miss soiling themselves. Florida, they're out of clothes. They soiled themselves so much.
If it was not evident that Billy Napier did not have the onions to be the level of head coach that prior guys have been, I think Saturday night was the perfect display of that.
I mean, didn't they go through this big thing in the offseason about their special teams where they had this number system and they had this thing they're doing and this and that so they don't have any more issues? What happened on Saturday?
They had issues. And
you had a real legit shot to win that game if you're Florida. Of course, there are Gator fans who went, thank God, because, geez, he wins that game. Why be keeping this guy?
Yeah.
But then there's just more evidence on why you need to make a change. You had a very winnable game in front of you. And by the way, let me hear. You know I'm not hearing anymore?
What's that?
Nico for the Heisman.
Yeah, he's come down to earth a little bit. Once you stop playing Chattanooga and NC State and, the Chicago School for the Blind, then, you start facing some stiff competition. He's showing his redshirt freshman, just like Lenore Sellers is.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. I mean, we're watching the development of Lenore Sellers and the growing pains that go with a young quarterback. Nico's a 5-star, $7 million quarterback. And look at the growing pains. He hasn't thrown for over 200 yards since he started playing real teams.
Nope.
Thank God for the Tennessee run game and the Tennessee defense.
Well, and he just has a lot of good weapons around him. So when he does get the ball to guys, they are able to make plays, and that defense is phenomenal and is going to be a reason why they're going to be competitive going forward. So it creates such an interesting dynamic this weekend with Alabama and Tennessee because both teams can be really good. Both teams can also be really bad. I don't know which version of each team shows up for the third Saturday in October.
It feels like, okay, the Alabama offense versus the Tennessee defense, that's the main course, right? The main show.
Yeah.
That's the headliner. But I feel like who wins this game will be whichever other sides of the ball that we're not going to talk about, which one wins that battle between the Tennessee offense and the Alabama defense. That feels like that's the one. Because look, the Alabama offense, Tennessee defense, that's where skulls are knocking, right?
Right.
It's the other one, the warm-up band. Who steps out of that is where you get the win. That's just the feeling. But that's going to be good. It's going to be good this Saturday. And whoever loses that game gets their second loss. And now they're on high alert.
This is a playoff hot seat game because whoever loses has zero margin for error going forward.
All this concern, and look, I've always loved the college football regular season because it's the best regular season in sports.
Yeah.
Because if you stubbed your toe once, basically it puts you in a coma.
You
right?
had to be as close to perfect as possible if you wanted to win the whole thing.
Right. Unless a few weird things happen occasionally that would help someone. So everyone was concerned, expanded playoff. Well, the regular season's not going to mean anything. Oh, no, now you get one loss. You get one mulligan. And then you're out of mulligans. Yeah. So there's still a lot that means something in the college football regular season.
That's right.
Today is the 14th of October. It's the greatest day in the history of the world. We'll talk about that and more Carolina and Bama next on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. Time to check the greatest day in the history of the world, which is October 14th here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game on a Reaction Monday. We'll get back to some South Carolina sound from Shane Beamer here in just a couple minutes. All right, on this day, Tyler, we always go old school. Chicago Cardinals. They snapped the longest losing streak in NFL history at 29 games by beating the Chicago Bears, 16-7. Of course, you got the Chicago Cardinals, Chicago Bears. Cardinals went, kind of two teams in town. Let's go somewhere where there's not a team. To St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Then, let's leave St. Louis. Let's go to Arizona.
Say, hey, there's a baseball team with the same name that's getting confusing.
It's really weird. Let's go. And they like hockey and stuff. Let's go somewhere else where they don't have a baseball team with the name Cardinals.
I got it. Let's go to the desert.
Good idea. It's been, look, obviously the Bidwells didn't own the franchise back then, and they were good in like the 1920s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this franchise in our lifetime, the Cardinals, has been a punchline for the most part. Got to a Super Bowl with Kurt Warner as quarterback and Bruce Arians as head coach. But for the most part, they've been in Arizona. Every now and then they're decent or good or whatever. For the most part, they got the NFC Championship game when Warner moved on, and then you brought in, Carson Palmer from Cincinnati.
Yep. Really, outside of that, since the Warner years, they've not really been a team that garners a whole lot of attention. They made the playoffs a couple other times. There was that one year they were down to like their fifth quarterback.
Yeah.
And they had to play Carolina. But yeah, other than that, they're a team like we talk about them from the standpoint of the drama with Kyler Murray and what's our guy Kingsbury was there.
Kingsbury, Cliff Kingsbury.
But other than that, they just don't. Yeah, they don't garner a lot of attention.
Yeah, they got attention when they put a clause in Murray's contract. They actually had to watch film.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and it doesn't help when you're in a division with the Seahawks, the team that's been to 2 Super Bowls in the past 10 years. Obviously, the Rams, who have won theirs, the 49ers that keep going. Like you're the black sheep of that division.
Yeah, you're the jobber. And the other thing is, remember Michael Bidwell came out with the awful work culture and atmosphere, and there's people with lawsuits right and left about how Bidwell treated people, and of course his dad Bill Bidwell was a terrible owner as well. He's the guy that moved them from St. Louis to Arizona. So yeah, it's been a bad lineage in our lifetime with the Cardinals. All right, this day in 1973, this 42-year-old guy got a base hit in Game 2 of the World Series, the Mets and the A's. That guy was Willie Mays, playing for the Mets, winding down his career, got his last career hit in the World Series, 1973. The A's won that series, by the way, over the Mets. And there are people, again, that's a little bit before my time of point of reference in my life, but I've talked to old heads who say if you watch that, it was painful to watch Willie Mays at 42 try to play baseball. Oh, it's hurting his legacy. No, it doesn't. It doesn't hurt. Again, no one comes and takes your legacy if you play too long.
You want to see your heroes go out in the same form that you remember. Like watching Peyton Manning's final year was tough. And they won the Super Bowl on the strength of that defense, but he couldn't throw a forward pass accurately to save his life.
No neck left, right.
They had to bench him for Brock Osweiler in the middle of the year. Like, that was tough to watch.
Yeah, nobody likes to see Franco Harris in a Seahawk jersey, or Jerry Rice in a Raider or Seahawk jersey, or any of these guys who have played. Emmitt Smith was a Cardinal. Who remembers that?
Right.
So nobody likes to see the end go that way. They just don't. But for the most part, most of them do.
Sure.
Joe Namath was a Ram. Who remembers that? Johnny Unitas was a Charger.
Those are fun trivia questions years down the line. Like, people aren't going to remember Julio Jones as a Philadelphia Eagle.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not at all. No. Just that unfortunately, especially in football where there are no guaranteed contracts, you see that more than a lot of other sports where guys go and wind their career out somewhere and you even forgot they played there until, oh, that's right. I'll see it in the NBA sometimes, like, you say, Patrick Ewing played for that team? I didn't know that.
Sure.
Really? And but when you're here, especially for football, it feels even tougher we talk about that. But it happens in all these sports. Very rarely, Tony Gwynn, Cal Ripken. That doesn't happen that much anymore.
No.
Of dudes who just play for one team their entire careers. You see these guys ending up in places and you go, I forgot they played there.
You know, sports are a business at the end of the day, and as much as you might be beloved in your city, if it doesn't justify paying you what you would be owed to stick around said organization, they're not going to do it.
Now, it's business on both sides. Like, you know, ask Jay about seeing Dale Murphy swinging a bat in a Phillies uniform.
I don't think Jay wants to talk about that.
No, he does not. No, people forget Greg Maddux went back to the Cubs.
Yeah. Greg
Glavine was a Met.
Smoltz went to the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you forget about these things because, again, it doesn't tarnish anybody's legacy. 1979, Wayne Gretzky scored his first NHL career goal. 4-4 tie with the Vancouver Canucks.
I feel like we have a Gretzky thing just about every single day.
It's coming. It's coming. And here he goes. Here's the last one. 1990, Joe Montana threw for 476 yards and 6 touchdowns. Jerry Rice had an NFL record with 5 touchdown catches. 49ers, they beat the Falcons.
Yeah,
45-35.
Right. Now, 476 yards in 1990. Let's adjust that for today's inflation. That's like 900 yards.
That's like 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
All right, greatest day in the history of the world here on the Halftime Show. Reaction Monday, let's get back to some South Carolina. Tyler, get your little clicker ready there. Shane Beamer talking post-game. Shane, I want to get to this one right here. Shane talking about staying calm amid all the chaos that was that game, especially the last couple minutes.
Just knowing that it's on the road in the SEC, we use a term in our program, Jordan, that we're fireproof, that no matter what happens, we're fireproof and we can withstand it. And we talked about it at the hotel early this morning before we came over here, that we needed to have great poise, that you're on the road in front of 100,000 people in one of the greatest environments in college athletics, and there's going to be adversity. And we have to stay together and just push through and stay poised. And we did. You know, there was some crazy stuff, but our guys just kept hanging in there. And I thought coming into the game, Jordan, that the first quarter was going to be critical. They're coming off a disappointment from last week, an 11 a.m. kickoff against a team that they're 21-point favorites to, and everybody's telling them they're going to kick the crap out of. It's their first day game. I think they've played 3 night games here. We're coming off a disappointment where everybody's telling us how crappy we are. So to me, how teams responded in the first quarter was going to be big for the way the rest of the game went. And we finished the first quarter, I think it was 7-0 after the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken, was it? Yeah, so I mean, it's not where we wanted to be, but we were in it. And then we just kind of kept battling back and stay fireproof and just continue to, you know, make plays when plays present themselves. And that's what we've got to do a better job of doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, being fireproof, yeah, you're fireproof for most of that football game. It's just, again, there was a couple moments where plays had to be made. They weren't made. And we talked to Conrad Van Order from Jocks at 1 o'clock, and they kind of look at it a little bit the way, you know, a lot of folks here in Columbia look at it, like you had that one and you didn't pull a W.
Yeah.
You know, that was South Carolina's game to win. And like we talked about earlier in the show, you got to get over that hump to where you're making plays at the end of games that win and not making the plays you end up losing. That's where this team is at. This team should be 5-1. And they're 3-3 because against LSU and against Alabama, which have been 2 phenomenally quality wins, you couldn't make those plays when you needed to make them when it was winning time. You get over that hump, you're going to win a bunch of games the rest of the year.
You hope so.
But you got to get over that hump. You have to. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell postgame show. We'll yap with Jay and also get our Firehouse sub text the hour next on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. All right, we'll get our Firehouse Sub text the hour on a Reaction Monday here in just a minute. 803-404-6100. Jay Phillips is hanging.
Well,
How
I
you
just
doing,
got
man?
here, so, you know.
Yeah, you got here 26 seconds ago.
Doing fine. How
It's
are
all
you?
right. Doing fantastic. So, how was the heart rate on Saturday for Jay Phillips as the roller coaster ride went for 3.5 hours?
I mean, it depends on how, look, and I'll say a lot more about it, so I don't want to give too much away. I thought it was a very entertaining football game. I had one guy hit me and say, you should be infuriated. I'm like, you know what, dude? I get infuriated by crime and war and cancer. I'm not going to get infuriated.
And when the Mets are on television.
Yes, and they're in the NLCS.
But no, I mean, I don't get infuriated over sports. But I look, it hurt. And I honestly, when they got the onside kick, I was stunned.
Oh yeah,
I was absolutely like, it was one thing because. Listen, again, I don't want to say too much because I got a whole 3 hours to do this. But that end of game sequence, I tried a few minutes later to put myself into the mind of a third party neutral enjoying college football. And sometimes you can enjoy a close game that you also know is a very ugly game because it's still a very dramatic game. So in that respect, it was a very good college football game, and it just sucks when you're the team, if you're pulling for them, the team that loses.
And Tyler and I were saying, because O'Hara's was wild.
Yeah.
The back and forth of emotion. And
they sell beer out there?
No, there's none. It's a dry place.
I think they drink them dry on Saturday.
Well, there was we had a guy behind us, and he was great. God love him. I do believe he was a liquid head coach.
Oh, yeah,
a nice way to put it.
Sure.
And so, but the swing of emotion in that place was unreal.
Yeah.
With what went on for that 3.5 hours, and it was just, and when you recover the onside kick, and that's the thing, we've all watched sports forever. Usually, when you get that goofy onside kick like that I called it the magic onside kick, like the magic bullet, it bounced off of like 17 different people, and then you recover it.
Yeah.
Usually, you win.
Yeah, you find some way, right?
You win somehow.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other and went, I'll be bleeped. They're going to win this game.
All you need is to get down there and try to give Alex a chance, and
so
they just
we won't
couldn't.
kill it all with you, but it was a crazy emotion. Being in O'Hara's to kind of absorb that thing for 3.5 hours with others in a big group of people. That was something else.
Yeah.
That was something else. And plus, I had bread pudding for the first time. It was good. Your Broncos looked really good.
No, they did not. They did for 10 minutes. I told Elijah, if you only see the final score of the Bronco game, you're like, oh, that was a one-score game. And it's technically true. But it was 23-0.
At one point, I was checking, because I like to go through the box scores while the red zone's running or whatever, while I'm watching game. I went to the box score. At one point, Bo Nix was averaging 2.2 yards per attempt.
That's his best of the season.
Denver was definitely missing Surtain yesterday. That hurt.
Because that's a really good defense. We joke about the offense. That's a really good defense. It really is. And their special teams are solid. It's just offensively right now, whew.
They scoring earlier points would help.
Yeah.
That way it could alter what your opponent is doing to you.
By the way, the Lions scored again.
They, I tried not to talk about that. Man, Mrs. Phillips was...
That was a rough. That was a rough afternoon at the Phillips house.
Happy birthday, Jerry!
I know. 82 and going strong.
Yeah, but the good news is you made it tight. Oh no, you didn't.
No,
no. They
look. Detroit is very good. That score is not indicative of either team in that direction. But
remember,
but some days it happens.
Dallas is missing arguably the two best defensive players. To be fair,
I think Dan Campbell has a vendetta against Dallas. So.
Well, look, last year Detroit got hosed. We all got it, but. Campbell, there was more to that than just getting even from last year. That was something deep in the psyche of Dan Campbell. He had to get out yesterday. They have centers out at wide receiver. They were doing things that just, you were like a cigarette butt they were putting out on the sidewalk.
That's listen, the talk this morning was, could all 4 NFC North clubs make the playoffs?
You look at their records right now and how they're playing. Again, long way to go. But
and ultimately, they still have most of one another to go up against. And again, somebody wins, somebody loses, unless they all draw.
Now, two things real quick. One, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. They lost, My man threw some dimes into some tight windows yesterday it was impressive. The last one, maybe you're going to jump on board. I'm not a political guy. You're more the political dude. I need to find a way to get to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. for a law to be put in to ban the New York Giants ever be on national television ever again. Can you help me?
I'll see what I can do.
Help me out. Post-game show coming up.
FCC.
Tyler, nice work, my friend. Jay Elijah next, talking more Gamecocks and Tide next here on The Game.